everybody! Welcome to the Good Evening Kitties podcast, a Tales from the Crypt review. My name is Melissa, your ghostess with the mostest, and today's episode is Season 6, Episode 3, Whirlpool. I brought with me back again, Mike. Hi, Mike.
Hello, boys and girls.
You ready
and
to...
non-binary pals and everyone in between and wherever you may be. Hope you're staying safe.
Yes, everybody, I hope you're staying safe. So yes, Season 6, Episode 3, Whirlpool. We have a lot to say about this episode that has nothing at all really going on.
It sucks!
It does not suck. It's just not super great. It seems to lack
depth.
Any substance,
right.
Really. It's
There's no point to it.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that.
So yeah, we have a lot to say. So let's open up here. As always, John Kassir does the voice of the Crypt Keeper and Danny Elfman does the theme song. This episode aired October 31st, 1994. It was directed by Mick Garris. He has a podcast and stuff now, but he's done a lot of other movie things. He also directed Sleepwalkers, the movie Sleepwalkers.
Refresh my memory.
Isn't that the one with the cats?
No, that was like Skin... I feel so stupid. It had Machen and Meek in it, didn't it? And then
yeah,
there's like
I think
a
that's
few...
Sleepwalkers.
That's Sleepwalkers. It's the one where
the kitty incest?
It wasn't like Skinwalkers? Or, no, there's so many things
Where's
that
your
have
phone?
walkers.
Grab your phone. I want to look it up. Wait, no, I have the internet right here.
I was going to say, you got...
Let's see. Sleep. Yeah, that's that freaky cat one.
Okay, so that is that one.
Yeah, that's the one where like the...
I just bought that at like a Barnes and Noble out of nowhere. It was in like the $2 rack. They were trying to get rid of it. I was like, okay, I'll watch this.
It's not terrible. I mean,
no, it's actually okay.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just a weird type of movie. So he's the director for this. The screenplay is by Gilbert Adler and A.L. Katz, who A.L. Katz also had a small little bit role in this episode. This episode stars Rita Rutner, who has also been in movies like Peter's Friends, Richard Lewis from movies like Robin Hood Men in Tights, and Blake Clark from movies like The Waterboy and 50 First Dates.
I will say it was very weird seeing Prince John in this episode.
So yeah, it's a pretty small cast for this one. It's basically set in just 2 or 3 different sets and scenes. And it's basically a play on eventually like a role reversal, Groundhog's Day type thing.
Oh boy.
That really doesn't pay off in the end. I don't hate it. I've heard bad things about the episode even before I rewatched it or whatever. It had been a long time since I've seen this, and I don't really even remember seeing it, so maybe I haven't. But the execution wasn't super great. It leaned too heavy on everything being repeated and then being like, remember when we said that earlier? And it's like, yeah, we do.
I mean, we definitely saw this episode a while before you started the show.
Yeah, wait, okay.
It was, we watched all of them. We didn't skip around, I don't think, at all. It definitely is one of the more forgettable ones, and watching it the first time, I didn't really mind it that much because Rita Rutner is awesome. I thought
for me, I like her because she's a stand-up comedian as well as Richard Lewis, and I like her anyway. Her comedy is okay. It can be a little corny, a little silly.
That I would expect that.
Yeah.
I would expect kind of like a Jerry Seinfeld-esque kind of thing coming from her.
A little, yeah. So I mean, I like her in this. I think she's very cute. I like the way she delivers her lines. I think they picked a good person to play her role, to be kind of out there and doing little crazy facial expressions, because they add little sound effects and stuff to this episode too.
I mean, I really didn't mind it because of her. I think watching it like a second time recently, like just after we rewatched it again, now that I see everything besides her, I'm not a fan.
Yeah. So this episode here, let me go ahead and read the description on the back of the box for Whirlpool. It's deja vu all over again when a comic book artist finds events in her life are eerily repeating.
Oh, wow. Where have we seen that before?
Groundhog Day?
No. And about 5 or 7 recent movies. Happy Death Day.
Hey, Happy Death Day was fun.
Russian Doll. Like, this thing gets a lot of retread for some reason. I don't know if people just can't think of different plots.
I will say right here, Happy Death Day was fun. The second one was very disappointing. I still enjoy the main actress in it, though. She's fun. Anywho, let's get into it. So this one opens up here, and we have the Crypt Keeper, and he is remodeling the crypt and doing interior design.
As you do. He's modernizing the crypt.
Yeah, he's got
Venetian blinds now.
Yeah, those blinds are like window shades and curtains and Slatex paint. Mike, get it?
Yes.
And
well, you'll probably die from the fumes. It's probably an enamel, so...
I think he's even got like a cup of tea or something.
Not wearing a respirator.
No, he's dead. It's fine. He's fine.
It's like so many paint flecks in his lungs. It doesn't matter.
I mean, it keeps him alert. He likes it. He's making a whole lot of interior design jokes, almost kind of like dad jokey, the way he's doing. Like, he's just real pumped.
I don't know about you, but at this point in the series, like, all of the puns are just mounting, so they just kind of fly by me. I don't even register them anymore.
That's what happens when you get used to hearing the Crypt Keeper talk. After a while, you're just like, that's just what he says.
It's just like, yeah, that was a pun. And that
sure,
was a pun.
Slaytex paint. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So yeah, he opens up the episode, and this one is a period piece.
Yeah, like late 40s, early 50s kind of thing.
When was Eisenhower around?
Early 50s.
Okay, because I saw a picture of him on one of the newspapers in it.
Throughout the 50s.
So it's a 50s piece, I think.
I'm going to get that wrong. It's like, no, it's the early 60s.
Well, let me look. Again.
I would say mid-50s.
Thank you, internet.
Just from everything past 45, I have no idea.
53 to 61, so it's somewhere between then.
Okay.
That's the area that we're in here. And I like some of it because they're also trying to do like a film noir type detective-y situation.
There's one direction that they're trying for. The other is like Looney Tunes slapstick.
Yeah, because they keep having these like boink and things like sounds on the episode and stuff, which is kind of funny. It opens up here and we're in a bathroom. I think the bathroom might even be set to an earlier period because we don't know this yet, but it's a completely different area. Like, it's going to jump to the actual episode.
It's about the same. I mean, you got a Marilyn Monroe type there, very much of the 50s.
I do really like the accents in this episode. Very New York, very like...
Oh, it's that whole, like, stereotypical, like, Mel Blanc. Like, what even was that accent?
Yeah.
You know?
Like,
because
the chick in this is really putting it on.
We all assume, whenever I, do voices from that, there's a time and a place that probably has very specific differences, but nowadays we're all just like, oh, everyone talk like this, And it's like, there's probably so many different variations, and they're like, I don't know.
So there's this blonde woman in here, and there's like a bottle of beer or something in an old
like
kind
a Dom
of...
Perignon or something.
Yeah, like an old, not super clean bathroom, but there's some Lucky Strikes, and it shoots over, and the guy, Blake Clark, is in this scene as well, and besides being in a lot of Adam Sandler movies, he is also, I think for a little bit he played the dad in Boy Meets World. He was Hunter's dad.
That's probably where I know him from then.
So he's in the bathtub, or they had just finished having sex, it's implied. So you got him and then this blonde chick, and then you don't see it yet, but some other guy comes up with a belt behind him and starts choking him out, and he's in the bathtub in his clothes. I don't know why.
Hey, Velma, you getting in the tub with me or not?
Sure thing, John. I'll be right there.
Well, I hope you like it hot. Velma? Velma? Where'd you go?
Kill him! That's right! Get him! Murder him! Kill the smart man! Be a man! Do it! Squeeze the life out of him! Come on!
Die, you son of a bitch!
And so he's choking Blake Clark out with the belt and kills him. And it's this other guy who's younger, and she's topless. She's getting her clothes back on, and he's like, "Did you really have to sleep with him? Like, this was like a whole plan that they were going to kill this guy." And she's like, "Well, I mean, I did what the job entailed. If I had to, I had to." And she's got kind of like that voice, like, "If I had to, I know, you know what I'm saying?" Like, it's very cute.
Oh, it's going to turn to gravel in another 10 years.
I like her. And she's like, "Pity, he was really nice." I really liked him.
Oh, I'm sure he was. This Fred Flintstone-looking motherfucker was the nicest guy.
Yeah, we don't know. We got to see him for 2 seconds. So then they're talking and getting ready, to just like clean up the mess and all that stuff and call and do whatever they're going to do. And then the guy who was being choked out, Blake Clark, stands back up. And he's all like, "Yeah, I'm still here, baby," and stuff like that. And he chokes the other guy out who was killing him and kills him. He chokes him really easily. He just grabs him for like 2 seconds.
You got big guys with thick necks. You got to stay in there for the long haul.
You want to hold that belt for like 3 minutes.
Really, amateurs, man.
Yeah, because that other guy just literally turns over to this other guy, to the killer, holds his neck.
I love how you have to illustrate this by grabbing my neck.
I'm holding Mike's neck right now, guys. And so she's like, "No!" and she screams. And then it cuts to a comic book strip, and it's her screaming. So now we're out of this first scene, which Tales from the Crypt likes to do that. The first like 5 minutes, most of the time I'm like, where are we going with this? Because is this even what's happening? Because usually it's not. And so it's at a Tales from the Crypt comic office, which I think is cool.
So meta.
I like it. I like the way they set up the office because it's like 50s, 60s. It's been a while since we've done that. I mean, the last one I think I can really recall was Corman's Calamity, where that was a Tales from the Crypt.
I don't know. I want to say there's been period pieces in between.
No, I'm talking about the ones based on the comic book.
Okay.
Like,
well, yeah, there's only a handful of
there's
those.
not too many of them. So it's been a while. And so it cuts to this. Rita Rudner works at the Tales from the Crypt comic place. She is a cartoonist, and she's pitching her idea here with this drawing of everything we just saw. And Richard Lewis is her boss, and there's these two other guys there. I think one of them is A.L. Katz.
They're disparaging the work. They're saying they can't make sense of who's dead and who's not.
Yeah.
Even though the whole story is very straightforward, so I was confused as to what their problem was.
Well, they're not sure why he came back. They're not sure why the guy would come back. It's like, well, for one,
You didn't choke him good enough.
Yeah.
It's
I don't even think
common...
it's really supposed to be. I mean, I don't
like,
think she meant for it to be like spiritual, but now they're like, what does this mean?
It's not confusing, you guys. I mean, I feel like these guys have never seen a movie
Yeah.
or any work of fiction.
Well,
because
this is the 50s. There weren't a whole lot of those kind of movies out
there were
yet.
tons of things. People were getting back up from the dead all the time back then. It was an epidemic of life.
And so Rita Rudner's there again. I think she's cute in this. I like her. She's got this little like almost looks like a stewardess type outfit. It has an R on it. Her name in this is Rolanda. I have a feeling that might just be her outfit, and she has an R on it for Rita Rudner.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
it's just her thing.
She brought her wardrobe.
Yeah, I feel like they're like, yeah, she's like great.
Wouldn't surprise me if this episode was filmed on the cheap.
It does seem a little cheaper. Like they don't really, but there's not really much props you could use. But they really, the way they shoot the different scenes, it's really not a whole lot going on.
I think I can see why people were so angry at this episode.
Yeah.
My personal theory being, like, how I watched these episodes, you know. Didn't have cable growing up, so whenever we went to a hotel, sometimes if we're really lucky before we went to bed at the hotel, we'd be able to see something on HBO, you know, if it didn't have too many titties in it. So, I switched to Tales from the Crypt.
Violence is okay.
Well, violence was fine, you know, that's fine.
You got some side boob. Oh, God,
you know,
turn it off.
Oh, yeah, it has warped my mind, you know, but... Anyways, you'd watch a Tales from the Crypt episode, and usually you get something like Yellow, or like that one where the guy was in the bayou is chased into the old house, and where the woman goes
stared in horror.
Yeah, stared. That one seems to have I saw that like 5 times in different hotels throughout the states.
That one was played a lot.
Also the different states growing up. So I would see these and I was like, well, they were pretty cool. And then imagine if like kids in my same situation went and were like, oh, we're so excited to see, it's Tales from the Crypt. I'm going to have a good, well, if I go to bed right after this, that's fine. And it turns out to be this episode. Imagine that I can see the personal animus, the hate that might come from it.
Well, and this one it was released on Halloween night in 1994, as well as 2 others, the Let the Punishment Fit the Crime and Only Skin Deep. So it's like you started out good, got, good, and then it just ends with Whirlpool, and you're like, okay, guys, see you.
So if you saw it on premiere
next week.
night and it wasn't a rerun, then at least you'd have 2 other episodes to be like, well, those were good, at least.
Yeah. They're yelling. Richard Lewis is yelling at her about her cartoon and saying he doesn't get it. All the other guys are trying to figure it out.
Now, wait a minute. Maybe I'm stupid or something, but I don't get it.
No, it's simple. This guy is really dead.
What, he's dead?
No, he's dead.
What, you mean he's dead?
He's dead.
What, are you kidding me?
What's the matter? You don't like it?
What's to like? What kind of ending is that?
It's a twist.
It's a piece of shit. Even the artwork sucks. There is no edge to it. It's predictable.
What are you talking about? You don't expect the guy in the tub to be alive.
He's alive? Jeez, I thought he was a ghoul or something.
He's not?
Okay. He's a ghoul.
So he's like, you know what? Scrap it. Because they're like, is it a ghoul? She's like, fine. It's a ghoul. I made it a ghoul, yes. So they scrap it. She's supposed to keep working on it. And Richard Lewis is like asking the other guys for just to go with their pieces. Because they have 2 hours. They have to get this episode out, or this magazine out. They gotta get this next publication out. So what I like here is also one of the guys that she's working with is like, what about that one I was working on? The one where
the guy wants to be the head of the company and then they make him just a head?
No, not that one. The one where the one guy goes, what about the one where he's a werewolf and she's a vampire and neither of them know it?
For Christ's sake, Sean, I gotta get this issue to the printers in 2 hours, except now I'm a story short. Thank you. Iggy, You got anything in your files?
I got that he's a werewolf, she's a vampire, but neither of them knows it story.
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's fun because
Yeah.
that's Werewolf Concerto.
Which was awesome.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, that's cool. That's the one, they did what they did that. And then I go to look it up on IMDb, and IMDb was like, he referenced The Secret. And I'm like,
I like The Secret even more, but nope.
kind of, but not really, because that was a child, and it was like...
Keep in mind, this is IMDb you're going for your information for, so...
I know, but I just thought it was interesting because that's the one they called out instead of Werewolf Concerto, because I think, for me, it's obviously that one that was referenced.
I have seen the most random just claims on that site.
Yeah, well... I know, some of them, they're really reaching. They're like, did you know these two people work together on this movie as well? It's like, okay.
No, it's almost like Hollywood is an incredibly small town when you get to know it.
So they're moving on with that. She's in trouble. Richard Lewis, playing Vern Caputo, calls her into his office. She goes into the office, and he's got like a huge tie. I just think it's like a big tie. And he's yelling at her. On his desk is like...
So many little statues of liberty.
So many.
And I don't really... It's one of those things where you would just see it as like a little quirk in many works of fiction. Here, because there's not that much to go on, I was kind of like obsessing about it for a second, thinking, what does that mean? And it doesn't mean anything. It's just like they said, wouldn't it be quirky if we gave him a bunch of little statues of liberty?
I mean, there's other stuff too. There's like a bullet, I think. And so I think they're just sticking the point that they're in New York. They're like, in case you couldn't tell by the accents and the names, possibly. And this whole situation, they are in New York, but there are so many statues of liberties here. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe that's all he likes and that's all he gets for gifts from his workers. So he's telling her this isn't going to work. Apparently she has had a drinking problem. He's like, have you been drinking? She's like, no.
You kind of get the feeling that this has been leading up. I mean, it's kind of weird that he would fire over one story that didn't work for him personally.
Yeah, it definitely has been here before. He also makes a couple rude comments about her being on her knees and things like that. So it's implied that they have had a little bit of I wouldn't even say a romance, but just she's done things with him.
Are you thinking that she got her job through sexual favors?
Or kept her job if she had an alcohol problem. Even if he is like he's like, I've seen you on your knees and it's not a pretty picture. And it's like, yeah, neither are you. But
yeah, me too. Hashtag 1950s comic scene.
And so she gets fired. And she's like, what? She's like, I can't believe it. And then immediately, the security guys comes up and grabs her, throws her out of this elevator.
Hurls her bodily out of the elevator.
So this elevator is important too. This is the second kind of scene they have here. So she comes down, the security guard brings her down the elevator, opens, and they just throw her onto this cement floor, ceramic floor, porcelain, whatever tile, and she's like, oh, hits it. She comes back later that night, a little bit before midnight, which, though, I think on one of the clocks across the hall in the other room, one of the hands was down at a 5 or something, so I'm like, I don't think that time was right, but...
There are some continuity issues with the episode. It's nothing gigantic.
Yeah, there were a couple things, but there's one coming up here, too. So, Richard Lewis's character, Vern, is still back in his office. It's nearly midnight. She comes back in and she's drunk, and it's kind of charming.
It's cute drunk. There's only so many different flavors of drunk. This is one of the more endearing forms of drunk.
She's like, I went down to that place around the corner that knows
nice
me.
This nice little speaker recognize me and I come on.
Yeah. And he's drinking too a little bit, and she comes back and she's like, I have this great new story, and she's got this little hat on, and there's a lot of fog and kind of smoky haziness in this episode. She's like, I have a new ending for my story, and she pulls out a gun, like a revolver.
You're a little later than I expected. I wasn't going to wait much past midnight.
I took your advice and I stopped in that cozy little bar around the corner. They remembered me.
Why not? They've been in mourning since the day you climbed on the wagon.
Funny. That's what they said.
Can we speed this up? I gotta get to work in the morning.
I got a great idea for a story, Vern. It's about a gal who loses her job, and something inside of her snaps, and she finds that thing that gives her back her edge.
Sounds a little thin.
Just me. The visual is going to sell it.
Wanda, what are you doing?
I ain't begging for my job anymore, that's for sure.
Look, you gotta understand, I did what I did for a reason.
Garbage! On your knees! You're the one who's going to beg, and I've seen you on your knees, and it's not a pretty picture.
And so then she shoots him, and he dies, and there's blood and all that stuff. You said the gunshot sounded like someone was smacking a door or something.
It sounded like someone was slamming a metal cabinet door. Foley is an art, people. You know, it just reminds me of Indiana Jones whenever his revolver goes off and you hear like this sharp report because he used like a bolt-action rifle to do it. It's inaccurate, but it sounds good. Here, it's like just, I don't know. They always get it wrong in media. It's weird.
But yeah, so then she stumbles back to the elevator with the gun, just holding the gun like, this is nice. She wants to touch the gun a lot in this episode.
I know, it's weird. It's like a compunction.
Always touching it. You mean compulsion?
Yes,
okay.
Although I believe that's also a word.
Okay.
Don't you mock my malpropisms.
Just the other day, you're like, detritus, and I was like, no, detritus.
Hey, you talk about your ideals.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that? We're going to talk about idea versus idea. Or scarce, or scarce. Compunction.
A feeling of guilt or moral scruple that prevents or follows the doing of something bad. I don't think that's the same word you were going for.
No.
It is a word, though.
That is I've become Dogberry right now, so...
So she gets in the elevator with her gun, and she goes downstairs, and the elevator opens, and she walks out, and as soon as she walks out, there's like 12 police officers that come running around, and they shoot her a lot of squibs.
It's definitely one of those, stop and we'll shoot kind of moments. They just unload into her.
Yeah, and so then she dies. Well, that's not really what happens, because then she wakes up in her apartment.
When I first saw this, I was thinking, oh, great.
She wakes up, and she's got her hair, like, pinned up in a little nightgown thing, and she's got a couple, like, 50s, 60s accoutrement, like the old radio, and...
I will say one thing about this, the set design was just spot on.
It was simple, but it worked.
Everything pretty much just screams the 50s.
But it wasn't like overdone, where it's
No.
like sometimes you're trying to...
No, it actually looks like spaces people lived and worked in. So,
Which I guess...
kudos for that.
Maybe they really didn't need a whole lot of scenes for this. It just seems like maybe since the sets were so basic, they could have maybe thrown a little more into the plot or the script.
I don't know, what they were going for, it kind of made it to where they were doomed to live it out the way it turned out. They would have needed more time to really flesh it out more, and that's something that only Yellow gets, I guess.
So she wakes up and she realizes what has happened. She knows this is a repeat of what she already did. There is no "I got you, babe," like in Groundhog Day, but she wakes up, and it's more like every time she wakes up like those like those horrible ones where you have a dream and you wake up and you can't breathe. And she's got one of her copies, because there's another copy of Whirlpool, which is the name of her comic that she's drawing, which is the name of this episode. I'm not sure why they went with Whirlpool, really. But
it's the name of the comic.
Yeah, but why?
It's the name of the comic.
Oh, okay. I mean, I guess this was probably taken off was this taken off an episode? Or a comic, actually, itself?
I mean, the vast majority of these aren't they? Oh, she looking up the things.
Okay, I think it came from Vault of Horror number 32. So it probably was something similar. Maybe that's why. I don't know if it had the same name. But yeah. Anyway. So she's like, oh no, this is all happening again. And then it pops back to that bathroom scene again from the beginning. So we're back in the comic. And now it's back to that blonde lady going, I'm going to miss him. He was pretty good or pretty sweet or whatever. And then this time she turns around and then Blake Clark gets back up out of the tub again, kills the guy.
People get strangled so easily in fiction,
Yeah, he just touches the guy's neck and comes back for her and he grabs her throat and chokes her, right? So he's going to kill her too, which I think was in the first one too. So there's not really much of a change, but it just kind of throws you back into this. So now we're back in Tales from the Crypt office. She's still getting yelled at again for her comic.
For the same reason.
Yeah.
I can't tell if they reused like some material or if they just did the same lines as a whole new shot. I'll be honest, I didn't pay that much attention.
Well, in the second run, there was a little bit of difference in some of the inflections of the people, so I think they might have just redid it.
Yeah.
This time it's her admitting she hasn't been drinking. Like, it's not as implied so much about the drinking. Like, in the first run through, he gives her a bottle of alcohol. Like, just jump on it, you're fired.
Well, she cuts him off here to where you can't do that.
Yeah, well, because she knows, she's looking at them and she's like, something is weird is going on. Like, she knows. She's like, I've done this before. And it's the same two guys, and they're still pitching the, Werewolf Concerto or whatever. And they also have a line there where they're like, poor kid, and then the other guy is like, you got to admit you seen it coming, that she was heading towards
Can't
this.
say you didn't see it coming.
Can't say you didn't see it coming.
It's the idea of the brick joke. It's like, that thing gets repeated. That in and of itself makes it funny, right? I don't agree with that.
So now she's called back into the office again. Richard Lewis is a little different here, where he's a little more, he's not quite as brusque towards her. He's a little more, this is not working. This time, she tries to beat him to the punch. She's like, because he's going to hit the buzzer and call the security guard. Yeah. And so she covers the buzzer. She's like, you mean because you're going to fire me?
She kind of lunges aggressively at it. So.
Yeah, and like he doesn't even have to like really yell much. And next thing you know, that security guard is back up there again. Like he was just waiting right outside the door.
They just, you know, the security guard throws out like a cartoonist like every week. You know,
okay, yeah, he does give her the alcohol again. Yeah, this is basically just her realizing everything's being repeated.
She's trying to break, you know, the cycle.
Well, I think she's just confused right now. She's not even sure what's going on. So now the security guard takes her back down again and throws her, I guess, out of the elevator. They don't show it. But now she's back at her apartment, and it's that night, and she's got that gun. And she's like, you know, maybe I could do it again. But she's like, no, not the gun. So she just, after she's like prepared it, you know, like she's cocked it or whatever you do. What do you do for a revolver? Like, she did something where it made like a sound. So she was like I guess she just put the bullets in the chamber. And she sets it down where her comic is at home. So now she goes back to Vern's office again. This time she doesn't have a gun, but Vern thinks that she does. He feels like he's onto her. Like he knows she's going to come back and kill him. She's also not drunk. I don't think she didn't go back to the bar. She just went straight there. And so here there's a little bit of a continuity error that I noticed when we were watching it again.
Yeah, it's one of those little things. I mean,
yeah,
obviously,
it's nothing bad.
This is the kind of thing to where you feel bad nitpicking it, but it's this episode, so let's do it.
Well, at first, maybe I was just like, oh, maybe they didn't care about that, but then they fixed it, so that's why I was like, oh, okay, so it was a problem.
Kind of funny.
So that there's a scene here where Rita Rudner's standing near the door with her arms open, and she's like, because now he's got the gun, he's going to beat her to the punch, Vern's going to shoot her. And his back is turned towards the camera, and you can see he's wearing like a vest, like a suit vest, and the back of it where you usually have that little strap that you can pull to tighten it is down low and hanging. And I made an offhand comment to Mike where I was like, oh, they need to fix that vest. And then it cut back to her face and cut back, and they had fixed the vest. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay.
It's very obvious, actually.
Yeah, it was
like, if you
obvious.
Look at it.
So then they fixed it in the next scene, like 2 seconds later.
They shouldn't have fixed it.
Yeah, they should have just let it go or shot the whole scene again. I mean, maybe they had time constraints, I don't know, but it wasn't a whole lot in the scene.
Making art is hard.
And so then they get in a bit of a tussle, and then the gun goes off, and it's that fun thing where, like, you don't know who got shot. I mean, it's not really fun, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, because they're struggling with it. It's hand-to-hand, but they're pressed up against each
other,
so you can't see.
Yeah, you can't see. And it's funny because both of them have a really weird face when it goes off, like hers especially. So you can't tell if they got hit or not.
That whole, like, kind of like, it's like a parrot's been, like, surprised kind of look.
Well, and, like, you can't tell because they both look like they're shocked, so you're like, either one of them could have been shot. And then you find out it was Vern. He got shot, so she's fine. She goes back down. Does she take the gun with her again?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. She takes the gun with her.
She picks it up, yeah.
She picks it up and she runs with it.
Oh, wait, no. Oh, yeah, she does have it. Yeah, she didn't drop it. She goes back down. Okay, this is another continuity error I noticed from the first time, too. So when she gets back into the elevator, the number 5 on there is lit up. And at first I was like, did someone mess up and someone was heading up to another floor and got off early? Or are they trying to imply that she's on the 5th floor? Why would that number be lit up? Unless someone had pushed it. And I think it's because maybe when they were shooting it, they had to push it to go to the 5th floor. Or something. Because she hits the 1st floor. So that 5th one shouldn't be lit up. It should be lit up on the outside, maybe, on the top. I don't think that was supposed to be right. Or they shot this scene. Or it's the same scene. It could be the same scene. Or similar scene. Okay, no, so this time she tries to go a different route. Okay, so yeah, that might have just been... Maybe it lights up when you land there. I don't know. That doesn't seem like it would, though. Most elevators don't do that. So now instead of going down... She goes to the 13th floor. And she gets out at the 13th floor, I guess thinking it'd be different. And no, there's still like 5 or 6 cops there that are just waiting like on every floor. And she's like, no. And they shoot her again. She wakes up in her apartment again. Now we're doing this for a 3rd time. Are you tired of it yet? Still got some more to go.
I think a lot of it also, it's like ending fatigue, you know? Fake endings, and the feeling that you just know where this is going, because even at the time this episode came out, this was a plot we'd all seen a lot before.
It's, at least they didn't go for another round. I feel like they maybe would have if they did at the time. So it's the 3rd time she wakes up. Again, she's like, she wakes up, and she gets up and she's like, you know what, maybe if I just stay here and work on it and don't go into work, none of this will happen.
I said before that there is no, like, moral core to this story, which is something that's very unusual. With Tales from the Crypt, there's usually a moral core. There's people who do bad get their just desserts.
Yeah, no one's really all that bad in this episode.
No, yeah, there's people. But there is a moral, though. It's a very kind of neutral moral.
Murder doesn't solve anything?
No, you can't fight fate.
Oh.
No matter what you do, you cannot alter the course of events. It's a very, very Calvinist episode. Very predestination kind of oriented thing.
And so she is like, okay, I'm not going in. So I thought this was kind of an interesting, like, power role reversal, because now instead of her being told what to do, she goes over to her desk and she picks up the phone and she calls the Tales from the Crypt office. And she's like, I'm not coming in. Why don't you do that story you were wanting to do about the guy getting his head cut off or whatever? And that's fine. So she makes the decision instead of Vern. She's just like, this is what I'm going to do, because, like, I'm not coming in, because I'm going to lose my job, apparently, if I do. And so just as she hangs up from that, there's a knock at the door. For some reason, Vern is there. Like, I also think it's interesting that because it's spread out to all, it seems like it's multiple days, but it's not. But that also is a way to kind of help the budget, because they all can wear the same clothes. Like, he shows up in the same outfit.
I guess.
And that's okay, because it's the same day, apparently. Of course, you could say that about Groundhog Day. That guy wears the same thing every day.
There have been Tales from the Crypt episodes that only took place in, like, 1 or 2 rooms and have been incredible. So...
Name one.
I knew you were going to do that. I'm going to have to go back and watch them and then find out that I'm wrong.
I mean, technically, I guess you could stay in All Through the House. That was one of them. It was basically just at that house.
Yep.
But there were a couple of rooms. It's just...
And the backyard.
Yeah, in the backyard.
That was a great episode.
In the closet when she gets stuck in and then the doorknob breaks and then he shows up on the ladder like,
naughty or nice.
His face on that was so funny.
I just love the little girl's complete innocence. No matter how malignant this Santa looks, she's reaching for him. Santa, grab my hand.
Go back like 3 years and listen to my review on that one. I had a good time.
When you get so fed up with the episode you're reviewing, you start waxing poetic about a previous one.
So she gets off the phone and Vern is at the door and he's mad. I guess because the story's not ready. I think I'm trying to remember, was it because the story wasn't ready?
The story wasn't ready and he was angry about that.
Yeah, and he's running behind it, but that's what makes this kind of silly, and this is kind of how you can tell it's probably not really what's going on, because
there's really no
why would he be there?
Right, there's no reason for him to barge his way with a loaded gun into a place.
Yeah,
he doesn't even if the phone call just went to the place then and he's knocking on the door mere seconds later, he would have no reason to come down there.
This is obviously an alternate dimension thing that we're not
this is where the idea of she's like predestined to have this happen to her comes in.
Yeah, but the way it wraps up in the end, that's how
but that's the thing.
Why you know it's not.
They set up that very clear thing and then they totally subvert it in a way that's disappointing at the end.
So he's all mad and he pulls out the gun and she's like, no, don't do it. Yeah, instead of shooting her, he shoots himself.
Right.
So now he's so upset because he's someone under so much pressure.
She picks up the gun.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? The fact your prints are not on them or anything that they have, let alone the gun, is the main thing proving your innocence. Why would you pick up the gun?
Yeah, so she's like, oh no, and then she just picks it up, holds it, like, yep, that's a gun. But then, literally, like, 6 or 12
the same cops
come. It's like 7 cops.
Their beat is the entire city, and they go around in a mob of a dozen of them just to shoot this one girl.
And they just run in, and she's like, no, and they do like a slow-mo.
Vern, what are you doing here?
What do you think? Where's the story?
I was just calling to tell you. Something came up. I don't have it.
You idiot. I gotta have this issue to the printers in 2 hours. Except now I'm a story short.
I fixed it. I called Hal, and I told him to finish that guy who wants to be the head of the company thing.
I hate that friggin' story. Oh, it's even stupider than Iggy's goddamn he's a werewolf, she's a vampire story. Oh, Christ! Are you drinking again?
Honest to God, Vern, no, not a drop.
You're fired. You hear me? Fired!
Oh, Vern! Don't do this to me.
I can't take this anymore.
Cold-blooded bitch.
I didn't do.
Except this time she doesn't get shot. She gets arrested.
Oh, that's right.
So now she's being set up on a chair in, supposedly, I guess, a prison. Because she's in a little stripy outfit.
Yeah, they're just about to face firing squad.
Yeah, firing squad. Which is,
I guess some states did that back then?
Yeah, she's not getting an electric chair. She's getting firing squad.
Yeah, you always think electric chair when you think of this time.
And now the 2 guys from the original scene who were pitching their ideas too say the same line.
Again,
poor girl, you can't say we didn't see this coming, but now they're detectives or whatever, so it's kind of like, oh, get it?
I
oh
don't
my God.
I don't like brick jokes. Brick jokes, the thing where just a statement is repeated and that's the joke. It's weak.
It was like, remember
is
when
what
we
I'm
did
saying.
that?
Yeah.
So then she gets shot in the chair by the firing squad, and then it cuts to another panel of comic books. This whole thing we just watched, I guess still including the bathroom scenes.
They had to put one more twist, and this is
the whole thing is a comic that we've just watched, I think, including the bathroom
comic
scenes.
within a comic
Yeah.
within a comic.
Comicception. And so that's the whole thing. That's it. So now it cuts to the Tales from the Crypt office. Rita Rutner is the boss.
Yeah.
This whole time. Richard Lewis, who was playing Vern still, but he is the comic book artist, and this is his comic.
Yeah, their roles are completely reversed.
Completely
in this.
reversed role, and she's supposed to be like a bitch. She's got a cigar.
She's being just as big a bitch as he was.
Yeah.
What kind of ending is that?
It's a twist.
It's a piece of shit. Even the artwork sucks.
I can fix it.
Oh, don't bother. And I don't appreciate you using my likeness in your goddamn story either. I gotta get this issue to the printers in 2 hours. Rick, grab something from your files, will ya?
Yep.
You. In my office.
And so she's got this power suit on with like leopard print and like a huge dragonfly brooch. I do kind of like the swamp at the end though.
Yeah.
Even if it took a while. It feels like it took a while to get there, even though it was 20 minutes.
This whole episode, especially the ending, why?
I mean, I don't know how close it is to the Vault of Horror number 32, because sometimes they do take liberties and kind of switch it up or make it more modern. Or
Well, the quality varies. I mean, some of those stories are incredible. Some of them are just meh. It's all over the place.
But yeah, so she's like, no, this isn't going to work. I think she gives the spot to another guy. Same thing. Richard Lewis is like all nervous, and stuff. And then she's like, get in my office. And then he's like, no.
Therefore hinting that when his head starts spinning and everything, it's like
a whirlpool.
Yeah, it's like a whirlpool. But are we meant to take away from that he's cognizant of those previous incarnations?
No, I don't think he is. I don't think she is either. I think it was just us watching the comic to get sucked into this whirlpool.
I'm trying to get something out of this,
And then that's the end of the episode. That's how it ends. It's just kind of like a little switch at the end. Try to do, like, they're both stand-up comedians, so maybe they were trying to do some sort of, like, punchline to hit it at the end, but it didn't really fall. It's not one of my favorite episodes. It's not terrible. So that's the end. It cuts back to the Crypt Keeper again. He is still making all those puns, just having fun. Now he's painting. He does have a little smock and hat on now. He's protecting himself. He doesn't have a mask, but he's
just
doing it.
Just get in there and start huffing those enamels, man.
And he's got a head under a bloody towel saying that he's taking bits or whatever instead of bids on who's going to paint. Crypt Keeper, you're so punny. And the best Crypt Keeper pun is...
So what do you think, kiddies? Am I ready for Architectural Digest or what? It took a while, but this old haunt is finally coming together. Nice shutters over there. A lovely fright fixture over here. As a matter of fact, I've even started thinking of some new improvements I want to make. And I'm going to use the same contractor. I'm already taking bits.
Yeah, so that's the end of Season 6, Episode 3, Whirlpool. The next episode is Season 6, Episode 4, Operation Friendship. Mike, thank you so much for being on here today to talk about this lackluster episode.
As always, it was it was a thing. I'm glad to be here.
It was a thing. And thank you all so much for downloading and listening to this review. And if you would like to leave a review, please leave a 5-star review, which is lovely, on Podcast Republic, iTunes, or Facebook, and I'll read it on the podcast. You can also follow the Good Evening Kitties podcast on Facebook. There's also a Twitter page at GEK Podcast or GEK Podcast. Again, thank you so much, and be safe, and have a good one. Mike, say bye.
Toodaloo.
I just had quite a scare.